If you're a Tokusatsu fan or a Power Rangers fan, you might want to watch this video because I think Simon Bennett might give us a cool explanation of how to do a show right, unlike Saban. It says that Power Rangers Dino Fury showrunner explains how the series is bending the Ranger rules for all ages. I love this article right here. It's one of the best ones I've read so far. Over 25 years after its debut, there's still nothing quite like the Power Rangers franchise. Save for a brief hiatus between 2009 and 2011, it has been a constant in the ever-changing landscaping of American television. Channels, streaming services, distribution, house have come and gone. Power Rangers, it's still here. There was that Better Than You Remember 2017 god-awful film, the wildly successful comic series by Boom Studios that continues the adventures of the original Mighty Morphin Team, and a whole new slate of shows and films in development from Jonathan Entwistle of I Am Not Okay With This Fame. It's a great time to be a fan of teenagers with attitude. Copyright, all rights reserved. My reading sucks, y'all, but at least I'm giving y'all the information. So, fancy reboots and comic book landscapes aside, the franchise still lives on most prominently as a Saturday morning kids show. It's been airing on Nickelodeon since 2011, which just sucks, by the way. It started with Samurai, and it's primed to welcome its next generation of multicolored spandex-clad heroes. Power Rangers Dino Fury takes the franchise back to its prehistoric roots, welcoming a new team of Rangers who draw their powers from ancient dinosaurs, based on a Japanese series Real Soldier. It premiered this weekend on Nickelodeon, which was great, by the way. I did my reaction / review of it live, but unfortunately it got deleted by accident. Hasbro didn't do it, I did it by accident. So maybe next time I do it like a live reaction and a review of it, I'll keep it on the best way I can. Head of the premiere, Sci-Fi Wire had a chance to chat with the series showrunner Simon Bennett, a veteran of theater, television, and film alike. He spoke to us about the unique process behind the production of a show like Power Rangers, what it's like having to create a show that will appeal to what is truly in all age audiences, and how the rules of making Power Rangers are easing it up with Dino Fury, which is great, because based on the first episode we've seen, this series is looking a bit promising. So this is what you have to say. It really is. We reverse engineer a Japanese show called Super Sentai, and what the writers do is watch each episode and exact what's considered to be unstable footage from each episode. It's usually fight footage when the Rangers are masked and Zord footage out of our 22-minute runtime, the 2 to 4 minute in Japanese stock footage. One of the additional challenging things about this season is that we had no idea when we were writing where Real Soldier was going. We were writing as it was still airing. So every week the writers and I would sit down and watch an episode and try to work out what we could use, how it might fit into our overall intended story arcs. He's basically saying that each episode of Super Sentai from Japan that he watches, him and his staff sit down and come up with a plan to write a story arc for each character and each ranger and how much the plot makes sense. This is why I love reading interviews like this, because they really know what they're doing, because they understand the audiences. This is what else he had to say. We're trying to maintain for the adult fans, inject more serial threads for our characters and for our villains this time around. That can provide intriguing and surprises and allow us to use cliffhangers devices. It keeps people guessing. If every episode wraps around the story tidily, there's not much telling about what's going to happen next. With Dino Fury, we've deliberately worked to inject more of that into the season. So he's basically trying to have this balance between children and adults. Adult fans have been big fans of this franchise for years, so they know more about the series than kids do. So unless you gotta teach the kids about the shows, just don't talk down to them. Just don't make them feel dumb. Like, do some lessons that can teach kids the right stuff. Beast Morphers pretty much failed at everything, in my opinion. In the interview, it says, going back to the Sentai footage for a moment, it's a common practice during the production for you guys to be writing the season. Yeah, this week, and this is what Simon also had to say as well. And I believe he said a lot. There's no set rule. There used to be more seasons in the bank we can draw on. The better ones for those have been utilized. I think what determines what makes for a good or bad season to adapt, it has to do with the toy elements. Obviously, the sales of toys and integrating those toys into the show, it is an important part of how the show works. Also, we have to think about what is going to work for an American audiences. There are currently, culturally specific things about Sentai that we might not translate so easily to an American audiences. For instance, dinosaurs are universally popular with 4 to 6 year olds, whereas trains not quite as much as dinosaurs. True, and I can see why Tokyo might not be adapted into a Sentai series. Into a Power Ranger series, because the show sucks, to be honest. Though I couldn't get into it when I was watching it years ago. Just goofy as I don't know what. I'm just saying. In terms of how loyal to the story we are, I know that in the past there have been more or less shot recreations for Sentai seasons. Since I've been involved with the show, and really since Chip Lynn has been on board as a writer and frequent executive producer of the franchise, the idea has been to develop a standalone and unique story and premise that's often quite different from the source material, but still to interrogate the fight footage into the show. What Saban came up with all those years ago, was a formula that enabled a high volume for kid shows to be made relatively expansively compared to it all. That material had to be original footage. The Megazord fights and big stunt sequences are expensive parts of making an action-based show. That's why 4 minutes or so it always Japanese footage. What he's actually saying here is that it was more difficult of having Sentai footage being created while having original footage being shot at the same time, And what I like for his explanation of explaining to the situation is what Saban did years ago of being cheap and being expensive when it comes to shooting a fight scene and an American fight scene. It's like struggling with both balance at the same time. So you really got to be careful on doing stuff like that, because as producer, it's tough trying to balance those out at the same time. Look at me. All I do is make YouTube videos, though, and I'm not really that good at, directing, but I am good at being creative. So, look at me. So, I'm not really gonna read the whole article because I don't have enough storage to record on this phone. But I can tell you this: what Simon is actually saying is that they're basically changing the rules of how to make Power Ranger shows, starting with Dino Fury, and he's also saying that we're going to try to use the more Sentai footage the best way we can, especially with the Megazord fights. This is pretty much Season 3 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, when they use Kaku Ranger footage for the Megazord fights, but the original footage for the Zyuranger suits fights. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what Dino Fury is to me. So, what you guys think of the article? If you want it, I will put it in the chat, in the description box below. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments down below. I think we've got the information we need from Simon Bennett himself. It seems like he knows what he's doing. So yeah, take care.